In the NBA, there's been countless articles depicting why large market teams have an advantage in the NBA. Salary caps, name recognition, special treatment, and so on. But arguably, the opposite can be true. In the recent years in the NBA, small market teams have been making the rounds. Atlanta Hawks, Dallas Mavericks, Denver Nuggets, Washington Wizards, Milwaukee Bucks, Memphis Grizzlies, and so on. All these teams a couple years ago, and some even now, are considered small market teams. Except, the Hawks made it to the conference finals last year, the Mavs lost a Game 7 against the Clippers, the Nuggets reached the 3rd seed, and the Bucks won a championship. And this season, the Warriors are a 3rd seed, and the Grizzlies a 5th. All these teams have one thing in common: one amazing young player. Trey, Luka, Jokic, Bradley Beal, Giannis, and John Morant. While big market teams have their benefits, small market teams create an interesting dynamic. In this article from Lineups, they explain that the league for the past decade has been moving more towards a player-empowering league, meaning that players have more power to initiate moves or actions in order to boost their value or brand. That also means less attention gets directed to a team and more towards a player themselves. And that's where the problem comes in. The importance of self-image over team translates to in-game as well. Stat padding. There are many players on large market teams that are concerned about how much they can personally accomplish before they retire. Jimmy Butler left for the Heat because the Timberwolves weren't using him. AD leaves to team up with LeBron for a championship, Kawhi with Paul George, KD Nets trio, and so on. Then you have players like LeBron on top of that are close to records and are set on breaking them. This means that super teams aren't always the greatest thing, as I explained in this video. In smaller market teams, like mentioned before, their star players are young and don't care too much about personal stats. They care about winning as a team. And without huge veterans to compete for minutes with, they're able to develop their game authentically rather than forcing it. Playing on a large market team also adds a lot of pressure onto the players, as described in this article right here. When you're on a smaller market team, you have less pressure and can just play. This is what happened to Kyle Kuzma. As we can see on the Wizards, his confidence has increased tremendously. While he was bricking shots in LA, he's now draining shots in Washington. This is what makes these small market teams so great. These players are putting it all on the floor for their team. Giannis is one of the most lovable players in the league right now, because he's humble. He doesn't go on the floor with an attitude and demand the ball like LeBron. He just plays the game and is happy to be there. Kyle Kuzma is also playing outstanding in Washington without having to play with LeBron's Iron Hammer. The list goes on as said before. This then trickles back to the players as well. Having a highly talented young star on a small market team means the team knows who to pay. With teams like the Lakers, it becomes a financial decision of who do we cut and who do we sign to stay, requiring more money. With small markets, it's easy, allowing players to stay longer and benefit. Luka signs a max with the Mavs, Giannis signs a max with the Bucks, and so on. And this trend seems to have good results throughout the years. Players that have stayed on their teams and built a family dynamic have had countless successes. MJ in Chicago, Kobe in LA, Tim Duncan in San Antonio. These are players that have stayed with their franchise for practically their entire career and brought rings to both them and the cities they loved. It's almost like a JFK speech. Ask not what your team can do for you, but what you can do for your team. And now, the gap between small market and big market teams is closing as international players boost their teams into the playoffs in the NBA media cycle. It'll be exciting to see how much more the NBA changes throughout the years.